Good afternoon, Griffin fans. My name is David Oliverio, and I'm the Assistant Sports Information Director at Seton Hill University. Today, we have Seton Hill women's basketball coach Mark Katarski online and on the video with us today. Coach, say hi to everybody.
Hello, everyone.
Coach, growing out the beard, huh?
Yes, this is my pandemic beard, as we're calling it in my house. I think we sent a video to family friend, and they asked the DAR if everything was okay because they didn't recognize who the guy was in the video. But it's me, and just something different here during this lockdown. But our family is safe and healthy, and we certainly wish that of everyone else too, that everybody is safe and healthy through this, and that we can make it through, and we'll get through to the other side.
Coach, I see a little bit of the gray in the chin area. I understand it. The longer I grow it, the more gray actually shows out. Have you been? Of course, I like to keep it neatly trimmed. What are you going to do with it? Are you going to keep it, let it grow out?
Yeah, it's fun having our daughters ask me about the white hair, because they say, "Daddy, what is those white hairs?" And they have a really good job of pointing them out to you. So that's been interesting for me to navigate. But we'll see how it goes. I'm sure there will be drawbacks to beards as well, but it's something fun and keeping me busy to this point.
Coach, your team had just been knocked out of the 2019-2020 women's basketball, PSAC women's basketball tournament. So your season was effectively over at the time. But where were you when you found out that the rest of the winter sports and spring sports seasons were going to be canceled?
Yeah, I don't remember that specifically, but I remember Kelly Sundberg, our assistant, and I went for a walk one afternoon up to White Rabbit, and just went up. It was a beautiful day, and just as a break, and we went up to White Rabbit, and we were getting ready to leave when an email came through from Dr. Finger about what the university was doing. And it's certainly different, but it's akin to 9/11 in that I can kind of remember where I was when it felt like the gravity hit. And then from there, it was interesting. It seemed like every couple hours was a day's worth of news to digest. And it could be anything from, the sports world professionally to, different businesses and things being closed, to the decisions that were coming down from the NCAA. So it was a lot to digest in a short amount of time. And I think that all of us have been able to sort of step back and settle into, as the phrase goes, a new normal through all of it. But, my heart goes out to those teams that, were literally on buses going to a Division II basketball tournament, or you hear about the high school level they had in Pennsylvania. They had swimmers in the pool whenever they decided that they were done with the winter championships there. So you certainly think about those and our spring sports that will never get off the ground. But, you hope that the people in charge have our health and safety at the foremost and are making the decisions that are best. And I think we've all learned just to be resilient and adaptive throughout this whole thing.
Coach, of course, recruiting is sort of a year-long process. How are you handling that with your future student athletes?
Yeah, well, I heard a quote once, and I guess it's sort of ironic considering the situation I'm in, but they said, recruiting is like shaving. If you don't do it every day, you look like a bum. So here I am with a beard. But anyways, I think that recruiting is always at the forefront, and it's something that we've been able to continue to do. Fortunately, we've had some relationships built with players, prospective recruits over time, that have allowed us to kind of get out ahead of those, and then trying to navigate and create new ones. I think that it's just opportunity, and we have to think about, the ways to do that and the unique opportunities that presents. I think also more importantly would be the retention of our current players, and just making sure that we have a pulse on them. Because I think that your recruiting is your retention. And if you retain your players really well, you don't need to recruit quite as much either. So I think those two things go hand in hand. But those have been different. They've been different for sure than what you're used to. I know that we would be gearing up for some off-campus recruiting, typically within the next few weeks with some big tournaments and so on. And so that's out of the way. So yeah, that's a whole new frontier that we'll be diving into as well.
Coach, I know that a lot of Division II programs will actually make time and room in their budget to go and attend the Division I championships. Were you looking to do that this year, or was this an off year for you?
Yeah, I was not. I know that our grad assistant, Macy Hollinshead, was planning on going. And, you know, that's something that obviously she missed out on. I know I had an opportunity last week, and I'm going to do it this week. You know, some coaches through men, women, different levels, you know, we're using the chance to do some Zoom meetings with each other, or any sort of video chat where you can share ideas, because I think that's some of what those coaches conventions afforded the opportunity to. So, you know, we're getting creative. If you leave us coaches alone long enough, we'll get creative and figure out how to copy each other too, and how to do stuff. So I think those two things are working to where we're starting to figure out ways to maximize these times and fill in the cracks with the things that, you know, we used to do before. I know for our players last week, by the end of the week, it felt like a normal postseason week. The only difference was we weren't in front of our faces, but, you know, the interactions we had, the types of meetings we had would be typical anyway. So I think everybody's starting to settle in and make the most of it.
Coach, I've spoken with a few of the spring sport coaches at Seton Hill, and I got to ask them a question about them having a short season. But I'll ask you, because you had a full season, what's your favorite memory of the 2019-20 season?
Boy, that's a great question, because we had a unique one, you know, in terms of, you know, if you look at the record, it was sort of a tale of two seasons. We started 12-2 and then finished 2-12. So it was an interesting one. I think the moments that pop out after talking to our players, you know, we had a really memorable win right before Christmas break at Shepherd. Ended up being a 20-21 win team, and you know, we played really, really well there. And then I think the one that would certainly jump out would be, you know, the win at St. Francis on their Kids Day, the exhibition game. You know, to beat a Division I team in a real game with fans and the whole thing is certainly a neat thing for Division II student athletes. And then I would even argue, you know, beating Edinboro on the final day just to get into our conference playoffs. You know, that's another one as well. But I think that in totality, there's certainly good moments to take. And I think from talking to our players, there's also opportunities to learn and reflect and grow as well. And I think, you know, this whole process has taught any of us that we don't know when the season will end. Whether it be through circumstances or when your last game will be because you lose it or win it. And I hope that for all of us, we can kind of take them day by day, as the cliche goes, but really just try to be in the moment you're in and allow that to be, you know, what you sort of celebrate and take advantage of. So, yeah, we're fortunate we got to see it through, you know, in one way, but would have certainly liked to have been getting ready for an NCAA tournament game as well.
Coach, normally at the end of your season, you would probably be giving your athletes maybe a week or two to digest everything, limiting any contact, just saying, hey, get away from basketball, you know, focus on family, focus on faith, focus on something else. How have you, but we're way past that 2-week span, right? So how have you been keeping in touch with your current student athletes?
Yeah, so we, because of the conference, the rule they put in to allow us to have 8 hours a week, we've really tried to use that in a variety of ways. So we've developed what we're loosely calling sort of channels, like YouTube channels, online channels that our players can log into. So every day we have, I would say, you know, 2 to 3 hours of programming, quote unquote, that we offer for our players. And then we've really given them autonomy in terms of what they tune into and when and what it would be. And those things could run the gamut. Like later this afternoon, Sister Maureen is going to do a session on mission of the university with our athletes. And, you know, Coach Macy Hollinshead is going to do a women's basketball history session. And so each day kind of has something unique like that. And then over top of it all, you know, our assistants are touching base with each of the students each week about academics. You know, our team historically has had a wonderful grade point average. You know, we've retained our athletes incredibly well. But we think that as much as anything just gives us another conversation point with the players and a chance to just touch base with them and just see where they're at and what they're dealing with and what's going on and connecting a little bit. So I think it's flowed really, really well. We have alumni that are talking to our players every Thursday. Alexandra Deep, 2017 graduate who works for Wynn Hotel out in Las Vegas and conferencing. She talked to them last week about what she's doing in the world, but also things she learned from basketball. Jenna Kaufman is going to talk to them today. We have Jaron Gill coming up in another week or so. So we are looking for opportunities to do that as well. And I think that's a great chance for them to hear messages and hear things from other adults. As a parent, if I tell Jayla or Mara to do something, they look at me funny. But if the neighbor tells them, they listen to them, right? And I think as coaches, sometimes they can get stale to our voices. And this is an opportunity for them to get messages from other people that may resonate in different ways. So it's different than what we would have done, but I think it's given us a great opportunity to explore, new avenues. And our players have been really, really receptive to it as well.
Coach, what advice have you given your student athletes? Not just about because we moved everybody to online, right? So I think student athletes are pretty well versed in ready for that challenge to move online because you're not in class. You're in class a lot, but you're away a lot. You have to really structure your lives. So what have you given them? What advice have you given them moving to all online classes and being at home?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think that, in some ways it is a new experience for us as the educators to kind of help guide them through it. And as much as they've done online classes, they've never had to do them in totality. So I think even for them, this is an adjustment as well. I think it's the typical things, but in this situation, it's even more highlighted. They will get out of their classes what they put into it. It's that simple. And so I think you can really get into the habit of just checking boxes with your assignments this time of year. But I think that, or this situation we're in, but I think, using the office hours that your faculty present, using the online chats as ways to get deeper into topics is really an opportunity that they can do and make the most of. And I think that, having a routine has certainly helped. We try to do that with the schedule we have throughout the week, and we try to talk to them about that. But at the end of the day, we're really talking basic needs for a lot of these athletes across the board. Do you have food? Are your parents still employed? Do you have, those sorts of things? Are you healthy? Do you have other family members you need to worry about? Because without any of that, all this other stuff becomes a moot point. But I think that we've stressed to them as well that we're all dealing with this, but I think the people that can really take this and thrive from it are going to come out on the other side so much ahead of the others. And that could be anything from your mental health to your physical health to something you're doing skill-wise, basketball, to really any of it. And that it's an opportunity. And we've always believed with our team and our program and the level that we're at in terms of higher education, that it's our job to help empower and teach the freedom of choices that these players and these student athletes will have shortly enough in the real world. And this is a great opportunity to highlight that, because we could hold their hand through this whole time. We could just let them go wild and be free range in a sense. We think somewhere in the middle is good, and then trying to give them a chance to really attack it. And so far, our student athletes have done a good job, and we're proud of them for that.
Well, let's switch gears from the team to you personally. What have you been doing with your time since we've basically haven't really been on lockdown, but essentially been on lockdown since most businesses are closed anyway? So what have you been doing?
Yeah, growing my beard. That's been number one. I think I've really had a chance to be dad a little bit more. Fortunately, we're at a great university that I think supports their employees being parents and trying to get involved in opportunities. But it's been more of the day-to-day stuff that has been, rewarding with them, and just, seeing them kind of grow up as they go. The other things are trying to reach out to, friends and family and even alums, and trying to stay in touch with them. I think from the university's end, we talked about the recruiting that we're doing, the retention efforts we have with our student athletes as well, to try to make sure that we're fulfilling those things. And I cut the grass yesterday for the first time, so I'm sure that's something that I'll have to do here soon enough. But I think all in all, it's been productive. I feel like there's a personally, kind of a rhythm I've settled into. And, I feel good. Not that, that's necessarily a question, but I feel good, both mentally and physically, where I'm at. And, I'd love to go play golf, that's for sure. But, we'll do what's best for everybody.
Coach, one more question. I know that for myself, it's been difficult to not just wear sweatpants and a t-shirt every single day. So Monday through Friday, for at least a few hours, I've been trying to put on just some dress clothes. Not, suit and tie, but some nice, khaki slacks, maybe a polo, things like that, to give myself a sense of normalcy in these abnormal times. What have you done to try to keep yourself on a little bit on track, especially with the circumstances that we have?
Yeah, I don't think I would be unsimilar. Like whenever we are going to interact with our student athletes on, Google Hangouts or something, I try to make sure I have Seton Hill gear on just the same way I would, throughout a normal work day. Keeping a routine in terms of hours and so on has been beneficial as well. And, just making sure that you understand kind of the boundaries. I think if nothing else, working from home, quote unquote, has actually allowed me to do that. I thought I'd be concerned that I have my computer everywhere. And I find that like when I go to lunch, I actually just kind of like put my computer away, go into the kitchen, sit with the family, eat lunch, and go back. And, most days at Seton Hill, I'm eating a sandwich over top of my keyboard, which is not always the best thing. So I think those things have actually helped be able to do that, to separate a little bit. But it is a conscious, intentional effort you have to do. And I totally understand what you mean with that. And I think that this is all, that new frontier that we're starting to learn about. So it's been a fun challenge, honestly. And I think that's the right way to look at it, is opportunity and challenge as this goes on, and how can you grow and adapt and be resilient. Mother Seton, Elizabeth Ann Seton, was certainly the queen of that. She had a lot of challenges in her life throughout. And I think her resiliency is in our spirit at Seton Hill every day. And I think each of us are primed in some ways for this opportunity because of all those lessons that she taught us years and years ago.
Coach, eventually this is going to end. We're not going to be at home forever. Eventually things are going to go back to some sort of normal. What's the one thing that you can't do right now that immediately you're going to do once we get through this?
Play golf. I mean, there's no question about it. I love golf, and it's something that is really, really hard to do this time of year. And I think it's golf. I'm sure Hadara would have a different answer, my wife, that I should want to do. But personally, it is golf, especially nice days like we have today. At about 4 or 5 o'clock, I would have loved to go hit some golf balls at the minimum. But maybe I'll just appreciate a little more, and I'll get to think that I get to play golf, not have to play golf, and maybe that'll be a benefit of it.
Well, Coach, thank you so much. Best of luck to your family and everybody in it, with your wife and your children, and everybody at Seton Hill, especially connected with the women's basketball program. Seems like you have some really innovative ideas. I love the way that you're going about things with a little bit more structure, and I would expect nothing less from you. I know you as a person, I know you as a coach, and as a professional. And great job, and keep up the good work. And I look forward to seeing you again at Seton Hill.
Well, David, thank you for your time, and thank you for this opportunity as well, just for all of our Seton Hill athletics and their supporters to get to connect with us different. I think that we forget as coaches that we are just people at the end of the day, the same way that our student athletes are just people at the end of the day. And, this forum that you give us, maybe a chance for other people to remember that, and for us to remember that too, that, we're all even through this whole thing. So we appreciate your kind words and your support throughout. And, I know personally, we wish everybody their best and hope they can stay safe and healthy throughout this whole thing.
Thanks, Coach.